Hello and welcome. This Bollywood actress has a knack for raising eyebrows wherever she goes, having dared to take on some risque roles. She doesn't mind provoking, and she says she's only being honest in an industry that can be very hypocritical. This week on One on One, meet the Indian star, Mallika Sherawat. In a country where sexuality in movies has traditionally been taboo, she has successfully managed to break the mold. In 2003, Mallika Sherawat burst onto the scene with Khwahish, a movie famous for its 17 kisses. A year later, she starred in India's biggest box office hit, Murder, in which she played a neglected housewife who has an affair. That sealed her reputation as an actress who believes in pushing the limits of the film industry.
जो वो हर पल, हर रात अपने पति के बिस्तर में महसूस करती है.
She also found herself in demand outside India's borders in Jackie Chan's The Myth, which led her to the red carpet at Cannes. With her heart set on going global, Mallika Sherawat makes no apologies about using her sex appeal to get what she wants, though she insists that it still comes down to performing first and foremost as an actress.
Are you happy with still being a sort of controversial figure, or are you ready to move on to something else?
Depends on what you call controversial. I mean, India is such a country that you do a little different thing, which is out of the box, which is a little groundbreaking, and you get this tag controversial. But that phase of my career is indeed over, and now having put myself in a position where I can do better work, work with more challenging filmmakers, do challenging cinema, groundbreaking cinema, I've moved on.
And that first phase you described in one quote as the idea to get maximum publicity for yourself. Now, does that mean that you're happy to step back out of the spotlight at all?
No, I'm going to be very honest about it. Yes, I did do some shocking things to get maximum publicity because I have to admit that being a single girl and having no connections in Bollywood and no godfather, it is impossible to survive and to reach where I've reached. I wanted to put myself in this position. Now, having done so, now my aim is just to do meaningful cinema and prove myself as an actress.
Now, when you said you did some shocking things, how would you define what was shocking?
We are a very hypocritical society. We don't like to talk about certain things. I just spoke about them very honestly, about a man-woman relationship, about the status of women in India. I was very forthright about it, which people thought was very shocking and which was shocking to my family as well. So,
obviously what was shocking was also the fact you were willing to reveal more flesh than Bollywood is used to.
Come on, which day and age are you living in? Is it the Stone Age?
But I'm talking about Bollywood, because Bollywood still finds it shocking.
Does it? I think you're outdated, Riz. You're not keeping in touch with the times.
Well, let me ask you then, what are your limits? What do you think Bollywood's limits are, and what are your personal limits?
Anything that I'm comfortable in and which is shot aesthetically and which is not shot in a vulgar way. I mean, those times where you show symbolic love are long passé. Now we have the traditional filmmakers of Bollywood like Yash Raj, the Yash Raj group, yes, like Karan Johar, who are taking on these bolder topics and exploring new themes and doing inventive cinema.
Is there anything you personally have said you will never do? Any subjects you wouldn't touch on? I mean, religion, for example. Very sensitive subject in India.
There hasn't been any need ever to talk about it, and especially from where I come from, Haryana.
But if there's a film that's going to touch on issues of religious extremism and
if it's an interesting script, if it's a very interesting script, I'll go ahead and do it.
Now, you said you'll never play sidekick to a hero.
Yes.
Does that mean even if the role, a support role, was really challenging, could be the most challenging you'd ever have to do, you wouldn't do it?
But then it wouldn't be a sidekick then. It would be a good role then. How would it be a sidekick?
It may not be the main acting role.
Yes, it may not be the main acting role, but if it's a good role and if it's a small role, I'll surely go ahead and do it. Like, for example, the Jackie Chan film. My role is a supporting role. I would call it a very small role and a cameo, but look at the exposure it gave me. I got to work with Jackie Chan. I got to do a lot of action. It took me to the Cannes Film Festival, to Toronto. I landed in the Time magazine. Just that small role.
You do put yourself out there. You're willing to take on the critics. And in that respect, people say you're very honest about what you do. How do you handle the critics?
It's constructive criticism. I think it's very important for me to have this constructive criticism. Otherwise, if I have people telling me all the time, this is good, that is good, then I'll stop walking on the ground.
What's the best thing about being Mallika Sherawat?
Should I be modest or not?
Be honest.
The best thing about being Mallika Sherawat is that I feel very strongly for this. I'm independent. I feel it's so important for a girl to be independent, to stand on her own feet and not to depend on any human being for her survival.
And the worst thing?
Being criticized all the time.
You just said it's constructive.
I knew you're trapping me. Being criticized all the time, I'm human. It does hurt sometimes. And also being judged all the time.
Do you think films are purely to entertain, or do you feel there is some role where they can play social commentary as well?
I think a bit of both. A bit of both. A good script, according to me, has a bit of both, depends on it. For example, like I did Murder. It had a social message also. You know, the woman has an extramarital affair. She comes back to her husband and to her family, to that prescribed Indian setup. But also it was very entertaining. Whereas The Myth with Jackie Chan is total entertainment.
You have taken up a few causes now as well, and you're saying it's one of the things that is good about being Mallika Sherawat is being able to be independent, stand on your own 2 feet. Now, I know in particular you have an interest in campaigning against female feticide.
Yes.
Where did that come about?
I just feel so strongly about it because I come from a place called Haryana, as you know, and there the male-female ratio is 800 women to 1,000 men, which is the lowest in the country. So if I was a fetus in Haryana today, probably I wouldn't be alive. And I feel very strongly about it. Throughout my childhood, I was really repressed. I was not encouraged, and I was repressed. My parents didn't encourage me to do anything at all. So I think that every girl should be made aware that, yes, she has a chance to be independent and to stand on her own 2 feet.
Now, I know a lot about your early years, your upbringing, your pre-Bollywood days is sort of gossiped on the internet and in articles and so on. So let's get it from you directly. What sort of childhood did you have? You said you were a little repressed and everything else, but I mean,
Yes.
essentially, it was a fairly middle class and comfortable upbringing.
Yes, it was comfortable. It was middle class, but there was no independence. There were no rights. There was no right. There was no right to freedom. There was nothing. I mean, I can honestly say that women in Haryana are treated like cattle. You have all the luxuries and everything, but you can't go out anywhere. You can't do anything. There is a particular dress code you have to adhere to. You can't look anybody in the eye. It's very repressive for a young girl. She needs to go out. She needs to be encouraged.
And you were, at an early age, forced into a marriage, or at least were, coerced into a marriage, which didn't work out for you. How did you react to that? First thing happening to you in your life of major proportions was something that didn't work.
I just have never talked about it. It's something so private and painful. I'd rather not talk about it. These are really happy times. I want to talk about happy things, about good things.
Okay, so you moved on, you rebelled, you left, and you went into Bollywood. Now, initially your family didn't react well to that, did they?
Till date, no, they don't. My dad hasn't talked to me in the past 3 years I've been here. It's been really tough on me because I think family is so important. So much important. You need their support, you need their love. Living alone in Bombay, in a city like Bombay, can get very lonely and tough sometimes.
Was the reaction just because he didn't approve of the film industry? Is that what it was?
He's just a very orthodox man. And initially I held it against him. Where was he when I needed him the most? But now I think that he had his own reasons. That was his own upbringing, his own thoughts.
Describe to me what happened when you first got to Bombay, when you first tried to get the break in the film industry.
Things had hit really rock bottom back home, and I thought that they can't get worse than this. They only have to get better. So I took this decision. I moved to Bombay, and it was very tough, more emotionally, because there was no support. And then financially also, I had to sell my Nani's precious earrings. She had gifted me on my 18th birthday. I had to sell those, to finance my trip. Again, coming to a city where you don't know anybody. You go to any audition to meet any producer, any director. There are 50 girls ahead of me, gorgeous, stunning. What does one do? Your self-confidence goes for a walk. It's reality check at that time.
Where did you find support in those early years?
Some friends I had known, some friends I made.
And then take me through what happened with the getting through the first auditions, the point where you were saying, this is great, things are starting to happen.
That happened last year onwards. When I got, 2 years ago, when I got my break, Khwahish, and so many small budget films come and go, disappear, nobody knows. So many actresses and actors come and go. I was really lucky because Khwahish was appreciated. It became a box office hit. Critics slammed it, but box office loved it. So from there onwards, Mahesh Bhatt saw me and cast me in Murder. It was a female-centric film, a bold role as Bollywood calls it, where a woman has to have an extramarital affair. I did that. Murder became the biggest hit of 2004. And then after that, the kind of ball set rolling, and then Myth came with Jackie Chan. He cast me in his film. I got a lot of global exposure because of that. One thing led to other.
Now, how do, it was a sudden turnaround in this
Yes.
respect, as you say. So how were you able to handle, how as a person were you able to handle the change? Suddenly you go from begging at everyone's door almost to
Yes.
suddenly everyone's begging at your door.
Sometimes I just don't know that is it for real? Is it actually happening to me, all this? But then I realize that it is there today, it might not be there tomorrow. I have to have my feet firmly planted on my ground. Sometimes it does go to my head. I'm human. It does. I have my moments of throwing tantrums, but majority of the time I am nice and down to earth.
Mallika, don't go away. We're going to ask you some more about those defining moments in just a moment. You're watching One on One. We'll be right back.
Stay away. Problems हर घर में होती सनी. अगर पति पूछना छोड़ दे, so it means I start sleeping around. आईना दिखा गया जो मुझे. I hate myself. I hate myself.
Simran.
I have to end it. I can't bear it
So
anymore.
don't leave me for that 2.4.
Whore. She's not a whore. I am a whore.